Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Tara Khalid. I'd like to welcome to our program here at Sharjah Media Corporation on getting to know Allah, getting to know your Lord. And today we're going to talk about giving in the name of your Lord. And this, a very important part, which we call sadaqah, a very important part of Islam is giving to help others, other than your family, of course. Your family is more valuable to give to your family, and we have requirements in relation to our family. But generally speaking, in terms of the society, what is it that we want to do to help our society, to encourage people to be prosperous and to motivate the society? And of course, that is to give what we have in support of the development and progress of where it is that we live. I mean, this, of course, is a very simple function of any individual in the society in which he lives. And of course, all of us should want that. But everyone, of course, doesn't think the same in relationship to it. But Islamically, of course, we have guidelines in which that we should live by. So Abu Hurairah reported the Prophet ﷺ said more or less, a dinar you spend in Allah's way, or to free a slave, or as a charity you give to a needy person, or to support your family, the one yielding the greatest reward of that which you spend on your family. So it's even being mentioned here to free a slave. Now today we don't think about slavery. For example, people say, oh, there's no slavery today. Slavery is an abomination, and it's something that doesn't exist in modern society. That's not true. That's not true. And there is slavery going on all over the world in different capacities, and some slavery in the way that we knew it historically, where people are being kidnapped and held for ransom. This is slavery, isn't it? People are being kidnapped and put on plantations where they disappear, or in factories, or wherever it might be, and they're working in illicit businesses. People are captured and infected with diseases or with drugs where they can be controlled and be used just like farm animals in any capacity that those people who kidnap them do desire to do. And this is going on without question. There's no questioning about this. This is documented in all of the global intelligence agencies, and police agencies are very much aware of that, whether the general population is aware of it or not. So that in itself is something today that we think doesn't exist in the capacity which it existed in the past, but it does. It does still exist, unfortunately. And the other aspect of sadaqah is, of course, for the people in need. And part and parcel of that is that we shouldn't wait for people to come to us, people in our communities. We should be seeking the people in need. This is a distinction in Islam, that if, for example, your local masjid, in your local masjid, you should be aware of the people in your community who are in need. And whatever it is that they need, people in the community, families, individuals, whatever, should see that is taken care of. Why is that valuable? If we look at it from the smallest microcosm, we can see that if this were to occur in the smallest communities, then the issue of economics, education, social reform would be taken care of on the smallest level before it became huge and massive in number. And of course, for example, let's say in a community where there were a number of people unemployed, where there were not educational facilities, that it becomes a bigger issue, doesn't it? But at the same time, the people in that community who are able and capable would and should be working for the pleasure of Allah. If we understand the value of this, the reward for it, and the responsibility, if I have the certain knowledge, or if I have certain funds, and my community will benefit from this, then it is incumbent upon me as a Muslim to share this with my community. I'm only doing what? I'm only furthering the ability of my community to be self-sustaining and to be independent. I'm only doing what? Supporting future generations, the development of future generations where it is that I live, not just my family. So if we look at it from this perspective, we should see the long-term benefit for the society in which I live. That if I spend time and efforts in my community, that it will have short-term and long-term benefits. And not just my family will benefit, but other families. And people will benefit in the future. That whatever it is that I do to establish that is positive and constructive where I live, that we pray and we hope that that becomes institutionalized. And as a result of that, that it will be something that will make an impact in the community today, tomorrow, and in the future. And that's what we should believe, and this is what we should look for. And we should believe that whatever it is I give for the pleasure of Allah, that Allah will put blessing in this. And when the blessing comes, that this thing can be expanded to the degree that Allah wants it to be. That if I'm limited in my thinking, for example, let's take a very poor community, a neighborhood where people are very poor, the educational standard is very low, the health standard is very poor, the living conditions are very bad. If we went to that community, which unfortunately most people will not do today, and did a tour, and did a feasibility study, gathered facts and information about the conditions of the people in this, because I'm only doing this for, I know about these people, and there are people who are doing this today. I know some brothers who are doing this in different countries today, alhamdulillah. So imagine this, if we had this concern, and it doesn't have to be where we live, but we know that people are living under these conditions. And we go and we talk to the people and we study the community and we look at the community and see what it is that I can personally do. I cannot necessarily have the capacity to do all of the things that are needed in that community. But what is it that I can do that the people will benefit from, that I feel confidently that I can do that someone will benefit from? If I make this intention and I ask Allah to help me in this, because I'm doing this only for the pleasure of Allah, because I see there's a need among the people, then I should believe ultimately that Allah's help will come. And that whatever the condition may be of those people, that due to these efforts, that inshallah ta'ala, that the people's condition will improve. I may never see it in my lifetime. That is a secondary factor. The question is that I need the reward from Allah. I make it the intention because I know without question that this is something that Allah will be pleased with, and I want to do that. I believe that these people are standing in need and that Allah can provide that need. And I pray and I ask Allah that Allah will use me as a means of assisting these people. What will be the reward for me if I look at it from this perspective? That whatever work that I have done, it could be the smallest thing in this community. As long as there is someone doing this work, whatever that I have taught or whatever I've done, as long as there's someone benefiting from it or there's someone teaching it, and that could go on and on and on until the day of judgment. This could be passed down. The knowledge, for example, is something that could be passed down for generations. If we look at some of the institutions, the global institutions of higher learning, they've been around for centuries. So imagine the reward that a person who was one of the founding fathers of that institution, if we just take 100 years as an example, we take an institution of higher learning. If you were one of the founding fathers or mothers, okay, for lack of a better description, of that institution, how much reward would you have in 100 years? How many students would have come through that institution? That's number one. That's only one aspect. And from those students, how many of those, if we just take 100 years and we look at it and we say every year for 100 years, there's 100 students who graduate from an institution that you worked with. Look at how much we're talking about, over 100 years. Just think about it. There's 10,000. We're talking about only 100. There's 10,000 young people we're talking about who graduated from this institution. And that's a small number. And if we multiply that each one of those 10,000 got some benefit from you and they spread it. If we look at it from that perspective, we're talking about 1 million, aren't we? So if we look at this from this perspective, then we begin to look at our lives in a different way. We have been trained in modern society to look for gross profits, windfall profits from a financial perspective, but we're not been taught to work and to look at profits that Allah will give us for doing the work that Allah is pleased with. So we're only looking, in most instances, we've been trained to look for the benefits in this world only. And we're only looking for physical benefits, things that we can own or obtain. We're not looking at that which will benefit me after this life. So this is what we're talking about. What do we need to do to please Allah that I am in a good state in my grave, that I am in a good state on the day of judgment, that by Allah's mercy, Allah forgives me of my sins and Allah puts me in the paradise? What are the deeds and actions that I need to do to move forward? So this is what we're saying. Giving of yourself is a means of entering paradise. And again, I'll reiterate, it doesn't mean money necessarily. Money is a good thing, but there are so many things that people need. And of course, I think all of us have heard at some time or another people say, well, it's not money that I really need. There's other things in my life. There's other things in my life that are missing that I need. And these are the things that I'm talking about. So why am I saying and not putting emphasis on money? Because there are many skill sets and contributions that people can make. They don't have money, but there are contributions that they can make. And many people think, well, if I don't have money, I can't do anything. I see the people out there collecting money, and they're saying money is going to this and going to this project and that project and so forth and so on. But I don't have any money to give. So what do I do now? Should I just be satisfied with making dua, this supplication? Supplication is not a small thing. If we're supplicating sincerely and Allah accepts our supplication and manifests, this can be a very big benefit for the people we're supplicating for. So this is not a small thing. So we shouldn't cast that aside. But I'm talking about giving of yourself. And similarly, supplication in the same way. If you identify some people who are in need, let's just say food. We have now a crisis in some places in the world where there's drought. We have some places in the world where there's fires. We have some places where they had tsunami. An example. We have different situations. We have some people who are refugees from war. So we have many different situations going on at the same time, globally. So if we were to take this one situation, the people were refugees. Now in many places in the world, it's in the middle of the winter. People are living in simple refugee camps with just a tarp. It's freezing conditions. They have small children, newborn babies, elderly people, a host of situations. So what is the minimum if I want to help? What is the minimum thing that I can do? Minimally, I can pray for those people regularly. For a Muslim, 5 times a day. Minimally, it's easy, isn't it? We're praying 5 times a day. If I really have this concern, 5 times a day, I can pray for those people. And that's under any condition. We're talking about people who are being oppressed. We're talking about people who have substance abuse problems. Okay? There's a whole host of issues that are actually global issues that are going on today. So what are we doing? We're calling the people back to what? Prayer. Because many of the Muslims are not praying. And of course, this is the real assistance, for lack of a better description, of the believer. That it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You may not be able to communicate with a person someplace else. You may not be able to send money to them, but you can pray for them. You can sincerely turn to Allah and ask Allah to help the people in their condition. This is very simple. And with sincerity, we believe that Allah will accept this prayer. So when we talk about charity, as we see, can come in many forms and many shapes. So if we don't have means to assist people, then minimally we should sincerely pray for them. The means to assist people, I think all of us have the capability in one way or another. And if we don't, what do I mean is that if I don't have the capability to assist someone, to send food, to send clothing, whatever it might be, there are people that do. So I can work within an organization that performs this task as a volunteer, if I sincerely have this concern. So if we look at it, there's so many ways for us to do good, so many ways for us to get the help of Allah. There's so many ways for us to obey the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's so many ways for us to help others. And of course, this is what is essential for us. In helping others, that we get the benefit. The benefit for us in this life and hereafter. My name is Tariq Khalid. I'd like to thank you for joining us here at Sharjah Media Corporation on getting closer and getting to know your Lord. And we hope and we pray that everyone out there is gaining this reality and is becoming motivated to worship and obey the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best way that you can. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.